Last and by no means least, Ulrich Zwingli's 67 articles. Now, I've included this. I'm a fan of the Reformers, a big fan of Luther, as you might have guessed, big fan of Ulrich Zwingli and John Calvin. Now, I steered away from Calvin because I'm not entirely sure about predestination. There's some merit to it, but I didn't want to include it in the Bible. With Zwingli, he set out these 67 articles, and the importance of them was it actually set a basis for a society to live in. So it wasn't, it was like a practical application of what he saw was the gospel message in Switzerland. Now, obviously, among those articles was uh, he would say no biblical support for the Pope, the sense of no biblical support for the idea of Christ being present at the Eucharist, um, the old chestnut of intercession or veneration of saints, um, and the idea that priests shouldn't have to be celibate. Um, but I think it's important in terms of the idea of a society based on gospel values. So we have here the practical application of the gospel. Now, it wasn't really a perfect society, so I don't, but I suppose that's because it's run by men, not by God. But it was an interesting attempt at that, and I think for the most part, Zwingli's interpretation of things like the Eucharist were correct. So I think he was probably he took Luther. He was around the same. He was at the same time as Luther and was writing at the same time as him. He was, in a sense, more Protestant than Luther. What we see as Protestant now, Luther is a bit more of a dissident Catholic, whereas Zwingli is interpreted as what we see as Protestantism today. Um, but I think that the key issue, the reason I have actually included him, was because it was a practical application of Christianity in a society. Um, and also a lot of what he said, I think, probably is true. So that would be the end of my Bible. So if you remember the song "Police and Thieves," it says from Genesis to Revelation. My Bible will be from Matthew to Ulrich Zwingli. So that wraps up my Bible.